Hello, everybody. We'll begin with a few opening comments from Coach Smart, and then we'll take your questions. Coach Smart?
All right, well, we're moving forward. Been getting prepared for this game since really yesterday morning, and we'll have our first practice today. Got a lot of respect for these guys, having worked there for a long time. Got a really good program, got really good football players, physical at both the offensive and defensive lines, extremely physical and extremely big. And they do a really good job in special teams. They're always well coached, play their best players on special teams, similar to the way we do, and it's what college football is all about. So we're looking forward to the matchup.
All right, let's go to questions. We'll take the first two, Chip Towers and then Dean Leahy.
Coach, obviously this Alabama defense is their offense is something else. I'm just wondering your view of offense in college football. It just seems just more prolific than ever. And do you think, what do you think that's owed to? Is it a change in strategy and philosophy and all that spread, or have the rules of the game helped that? And then what in particular has made Alabama succeed so well on that side of the ball?
Well, what's made them succeed well is players. They've got really good players. Sark does a great job of implementing a system that the kids can execute. It's based on really hard guys to cover outside. They've got, one of probably the best back in the country, if not one of the best backs in the country. Najee runs the ball really hard, and they're massive up front. So offensively, they're not built like some of these teams that go tempo the whole time and go hurry up the whole time. They're built more. They can go with tempo, and they do tempo well, but they're really big. They can take shots down the field with the explosive wideouts they have. They make you defend the entire field, and I think college football as a whole is more offensive because the rules lend it to be that way in terms of allowing you can have linemen a little further downfield in college. So the RPO game gets to be big. You can do tempo in college football at a lot higher rate. Tempo hasn't been as successful in the NFL because you get your quarterback hit, and to be honest with you, a lot of those NFL teams, their linemen aren't built to go tempo. They're not built to go 100 plays a game and go really fast. Well, a lot of the teams that have the most success statistically are tempo teams in college football, and I think that has a lot to do with the success and the numbers you're seeing. But Alabama capitalizes on a great system with a really good scheme and really good players.
Kirby, I'm doing something on the 2007 game, the overtime game in Tuscaloosa. What were your memories from that game dealing with Matthew, Noshawn, and everything else? That game was pretty wild.
Yeah, I thought we played a pretty good game defensively. I don't remember a lot of it. It was not really high scoring for you to have some of the weapons that they had at the time. I mean, Noshawn was a first-round pick. Matt was a first-round pick, and I'm sure they probably had another one, maybe a wideout somewhere in there that was a really good player too. So it was a good game. Went into overtime, and then they won the game on a really good throw and catch first play.
Let's go to Mark Weiser and then Anthony Dasher.
Kirby, you're going to be going to Tuscaloosa for your first game as a head coach. Beyond the challenges of playing Alabama, what are your memories of being part of that community for 9 years, and how often have you been back as Georgia's coach to either recruit in the area or visit friends?
Challenges to going back or playing a really good football team in a tough atmosphere. They'll have as many as they can have, and it'll be as loud as they can possibly make it. But in terms of going back, I don't think I've been back since I've been the head coach at Georgia. I don't think I've been back any. I don't really remember.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to check quick on how Tommy Bush is doing. I understand he was in a minor accident the other night. And also just kind of see how Warren McClendon and Ben Cleveland are doing after they got a little banged up against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Warren and Ben are going to be fine. A lot of theirs was fatigue. It was humid, and they wore down a little bit. We tried to sub in for them, but no injuries. Yeah, Tommy was in a minor accident, and thankfully his health, and he's safe. He's got a little bit of a concussion, and he's injured. He's got some injuries, but we're thankful that Tommy's okay because it was a dangerous situation.
Got bumped by a car, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact details of it, but yeah, something similar to that.
Thanks.
Let's go to Mike Griffith and Seth Emerson. Mike, you there?
Yeah, Coach, you talked a little bit about your offense, and you said at the beginning of the year just about playing good teams, how they can expose you. What have you learned about your offense through 3 games, and what are some of the priorities this week?
Biggest thing is that when we execute, we're hard to stop, and when we don't execute, we go backwards. So, I mean, it's that simple. Everybody wants to make it about this or that, but if the guy has the right split and the guy does the motion right, and we block it right, we don't cut one free. Stetson's accurate, and he finds people. When we block it the correct way up front, we move people and get movement on whether it's double teams or zone blocking schemes. We have success, and when we don't move people, we don't. So it's not really complicated. It's more a matter of can we execute at a high level, and are our players good enough to move their players.
Kirby, as far as going back to Alabama, does the magnitude of this game compared to the previous 2 times you all played them, I guess, get kind of lessened because it's a regular season game? And also, I guess you've had a lot of roster turnover when you look back at those 2017, 2018 games.
Yeah, the magnitude of every game, as you well know, Seth, is just it's huge. It's the next game, and probably in a season where you're not playing out of conference games, every game's really important because you're playing all SEC opponents. Obviously, the magnitude of those last 2, we all know what they were and what they were for. So I can't weigh the magnitude of them. It's hard for me to compare those things because there's not a game that I've played in that the magnitude wasn't great.
All right, let's go to Charles Odom and then Jake Rowe.
You've had 2 games this year where you've taken decisive wins after trailing at halftime. What does that resiliency tell you about the team? And I guess what you're focused on is not to begin with.
I missed the end of that.
Well, I'm assuming your emphasis is on not falling behind to begin with, but the resilient side of the team, what does that show you?
Yeah, it shows me what we can be, if we do that the whole time, because that was going to be my answer to your question, exactly what you just said. My focus is on why are we not doing that from the start? Why are we not executing better from the start and dominating the opponent instead of keeping people in the game? We got to do a good job of dominating from start to finish, and that's the focus is how we can do that better. But I'm proud that they responded. They responded by coming out and playing physical, and we still didn't execute with certainty in the second half of those games, not the way that we're capable of.
Kirby, kind of piggybacking off that, obviously, you've had a couple of first halves that were a little, subpar, a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties. Is there one way you guys deal with that and try to get off to faster starts, or is it kind of I don't want to say fly by the seat of your pants, but is it kind of you kind of have to take each game by an individual basis and correct them by each game? Sure.
That's exactly what you have to do. You have to try to prepare and get guys to execute at a higher level. And, you can't say do less with them. You got to do what you got to do to give yourself a chance to win. And, as a coach, you can't be afraid to challenge your players in terms of execution and asking them to understand what it is, the scheme it is you want to do. You can't sit there and say, well, I'm not going to move anybody. I'm not going to shift anybody. I'm not going to do anything. I got to be able to go play. And we got to get better at that. We got to grow up, and on offense, defense, and special teams, grow up faster. I mean, there's no time to be patient in a schedule like we've got.
Okay, let's go to Jed May and then follow up with Augusta Stone.
Hey, Kirby, this is Brandon Sudge. So, in terms of this game and everything, with the different circumstances it being in the regular season, do you feel like there's a bit of a different feel to this game, I guess, than the championship at stake? But can you motivate your players in the same way? It's the same level of hype and anticipation.
I don't think the players need motivating. I really don't. I mean, not for this game in any scenario. They don't need motivating. It's 2 versus 3. It's Alabama versus Georgia. They realize what's at stake. So I don't think it's about the motivation. Again, I don't get into comparing the matchup, this one to the other ones. Those teams have almost completely turned over. When you look at their team and our team, there's not many guys that played in those games.
Hey, Kirby. I kind of wanted to ask about Stetson Bennett's leadership and how he was able to, in practice or, in the locker room, really make this team, his own, really command it, even though, he didn't get the start at Arkansas, but now he's really, emerged as the guy. Just what is it about him that has helped him rally the team around him?
I honestly think he's just himself. He doesn't try to be someone else. He doesn't try to artificially lead. He doesn't try to fake it. He never did that while he was trying to compete for the job, and he hasn't done it since he got the job. Stetson is who he is, and I think the skill players on offense and the offensive line, they all trust and rally around him because they know he understands what we're trying to do offensively, and he can put them in good situations. And then the defensive players have all, seen him play and know what Stetson's about. So he does it his own way, which is really by doing very little in terms of trying to vocally lead. He leads by example, and he encourages guys, and he helps guys get lined up.
Let's go to Tony Barnhart and then Pat Forty, if you have a question.
Kirby, you've obviously learned from a lot of different coaches in your career, but in the 11 years that you were with Nick, what are a couple of things that have carried over into your entire career and the way that you go about your business?
Focus on the task at hand. I thought he was always a master of that, of not really having the highs and lows and the emotional spells of a coach, and just, focus on what's important now.
Kirby at Pat 40 here. Your defense, it seems like in the second half, is really, they make a play and then they make another play, like they're kind of feeding off of the pressure that they've been able to put on people. What have you seen from that unit, especially in the second halves this year?
I've seen some energy. I thought in all 3 games they became more energized in the kind of the most important moments of the game in the second half. They've increased the intensity and played really hard, and kind of I think some of that is we play a lot of players, so when you boil down to it, hopefully we're fresher than the opponent. I know in the first couple games, it was really warm in 2 of them where, you wear somebody down and you can take advantage of your depth in the second half and maybe see yourself playing faster than the opponent at times. But it's something we got to continue to work on and get better at, because we haven't always been that way in the first half. And we've certainly had a second half against Auburn that was lackluster couple drives where they converted a lot of third downs. And you can't be a good team consistently and do that. And we got to help our offense by getting the ball back in field position.
Let's go to Vance Levy and then Adam Rittenberg, if y'all have a question.
Hey, Kirby, I'm sorry, my video appears to be down. I'll figure it out after this. But as far as the running backs, how would you assess them? And does it look like you'll continue to be running back by committee? And then finally, is James Cook going to be able to play this week?
Yeah, I've been really pleased with the backs. I think protecting the ball is a really key for us, and having great ball security, which it always is. They run hard after contact and break tackles. Each one is, a little different than the other, and James certainly brings an exciting quality to our offense, and he brings a different flair than maybe some of the other guys, and we expect to have him back. To be honest, we thought he probably could have gone in emergency Saturday. Felt good about him being able to go should we have needed him Saturday, and we have good depth there right now, so we're hoping he'll be 100% healthy and ready to go.
Hey, Kirby, I was wondering what stands out about Alabama's offensive line and how important the matchup of your defensive front will be against them on Saturday.
Yeah, they're just massive. I don't know that even as good offensive lines as we've had, and when you throw Andrew, Isaiah, and Solly in the mix for us, and those guys were big people, but these guys, they have a guard bigger than Solly. They've got tackles that are bigger than Andrew and Isaiah in a lot of ways, especially over with Evan. So it's just a big group. They can swallow you up. They can move you. They can mash you. Leatherwood played against us in the national championship game. He came in and played and thought he played really well in that game for a freshman. So they've got experience. That's certainly a really good group of veteran offensive line guys that help them be successful offensively.
Mark Bradley, do you have a question or an observation? And then we'll go to Steve Hunter.
I have neither of the above. Thank you very much.
Okay, Steve Hunter.
Yeah, Kirby, Alabama's been such a power in this conference for a while and been a particular stumbling block for Georgia. What do you tell your team this week is to make sure that, they're not beaten even before they get there?
Yeah, I don't think the psyche or the disposition of most of these kids is that way. I mean, our kids all got recruited by Alabama. They know Alabama's players. They played in all-star games with Alabama's players. They all these kids know each other now. It's just so different that they don't necessarily see it by wins and losses and just championships. And our guys have played LSU 2 years in a row. They played Alabama 2 years before that in a row. And there's enough of our players that have played Alabama 2 games that know. It's a physical brand of football and it's a physical game, but we played them twice and it wasn't like they didn't feel like they could beat them.
Great, thanks.
Let's go to Jay Black. Do you have a question?
I do. Coach, after the last couple of meetings with the Tide, you'd mentioned at SEC Media Days last year that you guys have to finish better against Alabama. In a general sense, what separates teams that finish well, and how do you as a coach get your team there?
I think it's a confidence level. It's an execution level. I mean, at the end of the day, it's most games come down to the fourth quarter when you have 2 talented football teams. And in both cases, we got to finish better. And a lot of that comes through maturity, execution, all the little things that you got to do right at the end of the game to give yourself a chance to win.
All right, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's just open up. Anybody's got a question, go ahead and jump in.
Hey, Kirby.
Smart. You guys have...
Jalen Waddle, what kind of challenges does he present for you guys both as a wide receiver and also what he does on special teams for Alabama?
Yeah, he's as dynamic and as electric as I've seen. I mean, he touches the ball. You can see it on tape. It pops off, and it's really not just special teams. They find ways all over the field to get him the ball. They move him around. They motion him. They give him touches every way you can. And, shame on them if they don't, because he's electric when he touches the ball. I mean, he's just a really, really good football player. He's tough, man. He's tough. He runs the ball tough. He's physical. So there's a lot of challenges there for us with him. He creates a lot of issues.
Kirby, I know you said in the past that no game is different than the previous one, and you treat them all the same for consistency purposes with your team, and that's part of the process. But in a game like this, when all the hay's in the barn and you're finished preparing, do you coach it any differently? Do you go into a game like this knowing that you're facing maybe a better football team than you faced and you may have to take a few more chances or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. You coach every game to win, and that's what we'll always do here. And, if you make this one bigger than the rest, then the one the next week won't be. So I know for you guys it's not that way, but for us it has to be, because every team we play on our schedule is capable of beating us. And you got to prepare the same and be very consistent in your message and your preparation for the players.
Coach Smart, in the post game against Tennessee, you talked about getting a lot of split safety looks and 2 high looks, and Stetson being able to check the runs and work the middle of the field against that. What do you attribute? Is that attributed a lot to just the athlete that George is on the outside and people wanting to get safety help over top of him, or just the emergence of athletes across the board for you guys?
No, I think it's just how Tennessee plays. I mean, every team's different. Every team has a different philosophy. Some believe in closing the middle of the field. Some believe in leaving it open. Some believe in man. Some believe in zone. Some believe in pressure. Some believe in drops. So, I mean, that's Tennessee's philosophy, and they believe in protecting the secondary, not giving up big plays, and that's just the way they played us.
We got time for Kirby Lane Kiffin's saying that he believes you reveal too much about the text message group you're in. What can you say about that? And what do you make of this 21-0 record that keeps getting talked about with Nick and his former assistants?
I didn't understand. Somebody else was talking. I got the end of that about the assistance record, but I didn't hear the first part.
I was saying Lane Kiffin tweeted out that you were revealing too much about these group text messages. What do you make of him saying that's kind of a fight club? You got to keep it in the house.
Me saying that or him saying that? He revealed the text messages, not me.
No, he said that something about an exchange that you had that you were indicating maybe he shouldn't have put that out there.
No, that's Lane being Lane. I'm not interested in that. I mean, he can do whatever he wants to do. I mean, he did it all last week. That's Lane's personality. As far as the record, I mean, what's everybody's record against Coach Saban? Everybody makes it about the assistants. I always laugh because I don't know anybody right now in the last 10 years that's got a real good record against him in terms of that. So it's not something I focus on. I try to focus on what's going to allow us to play good.
Got time for one last question. Guys, let's go to Michael for the last question.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned how Alabama uses Waddle. Are there things you can do for Pickens, or is your offense just predicated on going to the open guy and what Stetson reads, or can you create some things for your feature receiver?
No, I don't think that Pickens is like Waddle. They're different type players, both really good players, but they're different kind of guys. That's what Waddle is, a big return guy. George is not really in our return game. George does a really good job, and we certainly got to find ways to get George the ball. I couldn't agree with you more, and some of it's dictated by what the other team does, and some of it's dictated by what we got to do, and they certainly do a good job of that, getting Waddle the ball.
Thanks, everybody. And if you'll stay on the line, and we'll have some players momentarily.